Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to our virtual classroom. Before we begin with today's lesson, there's a few things that I do want you to take note of, things both on Schoology and on OneNote that I think you will find helpful as you go through this class this school year. And so let's begin by going to Schoology. And again, I recommend that you use Chrome. I find that Chrome works best with both OneNote and with Schoology. As much as I like Safari, yes, I think Chrome, I have to be honest, works best. Quick reminder, remember that if you are having trouble uploading a picture to OneNote, there is a video that is going to stay up for a while showing you how to do that. So please keep that in mind. Anyways, let's go down to the resources folder. I realize that this is a folder that I haven't really talked much about until now, and I want you to know what that folder is there for because it is very, very useful, if not just for you, but also for your parents. So clicking on resources, you will find videos that are aligned with each of our lessons. I don't have one for our first lesson, but notice how this one's labeled 2, this one's labeled 3, this one's labeled 4. So they're labeled according to each of the lessons. The second video, as you saw in the notes, I asked you to put the number on top. So the second lesson was SB 1-2, adding and subtracting decimals. So I have put a video there that you will find helpful. And as we get into more complicated things, you're going to find these a lot more useful. Number 3, which is for today's lesson, SB 1-3, multiplying decimals. So there is a video there that you will find very helpful in multiplying decimals. 4, which is for tomorrow's lesson, SB 1-5, dividing decimals, which actually has several videos that I think you will find you will find useful when it comes to that topic. So ladies and gentlemen, that is there for you. That is there as a resource, something to help you if you don't have me around, or if even these lesson videos aren't as helpful as you would want them to be. Moving on, let's go to OneNote. And by now, you guys should know how to access your OneNote, so I'm just going to open mine. And before we go into our actual lesson, I do want you to go to the Notes tab, which we haven't done so yet this school year. So go to your name and click on Notes. And then under Notes, you will find that I'm actually posting my actual notebook for you to see. Now, sometimes it's not super useful. Like the first couple of lessons, there isn't really much on there, but it does show the heading for your notebook that you should have for your notebook. And obviously, you can make this bigger. So it does have the heading. And it has the numbers that you are responsible for, and it has the lesson number. So it's everything that you need. And but you'll see that on other lessons, like today's lesson, multiplying decimals, there's a lot more information on there. So as we get into more complicated topics, you're going to find that your notes will get a little bit more complicated as well, and you're going to find more useful information on there. But at the very least, you will know what the heading is supposed to look like. And so if for some reason you didn't take it down during our class, or you can't really find it on the video lesson that I made, or if you're absent, this can be very useful for you. So with that in mind, let's begin with today's actual lesson, which is multiplying decimals. So I encourage you to have your OneNote notebook open. Let us go to classwork. We're going to go down to the tab that says multiplying decimals. And you will find something like this, which are the textbook pages that have to do with this lesson. Please note also that I also made a tab for you to actually put in your work after we do our assignment. And with that in mind, I'm going to project or show you my notebook, which again you can find on the Notes tab once this lesson is over. SB 1-3, this is exactly what we're going to be going over. But for now, let's have the textbook open here, and I will show you my notebook over here because I can make it much bigger. Okay, bigger, and bigger still. Yes, that works. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, today's lesson is our third lesson. And so it is our third lesson. So on your notebook, please copy down this heading, put a big number 3 on the upper right-hand corner. It is SB 1-3 multiplying decimals. Please have the date written as well. And please copy down these numbers. It is a little confusing, and I know it's not the cleanest, but we're doing numbers 8 through 10. So that means numbers 8, 9, and 10. We're going to be doing number 13A and 13B. So number 13 has 3 parts, but I just want you to do parts A and B. We're going to do number 15, but just the B part, and number 17, just the B part. It'll make more sense once you actually see it, but for now, please copy this heading down. You will find that very useful. Feel free to pause the video to copy this down, the heading, or remember that it is found on your Notes tab on your OneNote notebook. So let's begin. And I want to begin with an example. And in this example, we are going to be multiplying 2 decimals. We have 1.8 times 2 and 35 hundredths. So we have 1 and 8 tenths times 2 and 35 hundredths. And so what I have done, just in case it is not very clear, I have split it up into 3 steps. And the first step simply says, write the factors vertically, place the number with more digits on top. And let me explain to you what that actually means. But let me also write it here. The exact same thing that is handwritten here, I'm gonna write it on the side, just in case that is hard to read. I realize that my handwriting isn't the most legible. So we're gonna write the factors vertically, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. And we're going to place the number with the most really digits on top. So that's what it says right there. Okay, what does that mean? Firstly, let's examine this word factors. Remember that when we're multiplying, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers that we're multiplying are known as factors. So for example, if I was multiplying 2 times 3, both 2 and 3 would be considered factors. The answer is called a product. And that's something that we saw already. So the answer is the product. These are known as factors. And I know that's not the prettiest thing. Factors. Okay, so factors are the things you're multiplying. A product is the answer. So anytime I say factors, I'm talking about the numbers that we are multiplying together. Where's the eraser? Here it is. Okay, so with that in mind, the factors that we're multiplying here are 1.8 and 2 and 2.35. Okay, so if you notice, 1.8 has 2 digits. You have we have 2 digits. Here's 1 digit, here's another digit. However, 2.35 actually has 3 digits. We have 1, 2 digits, 3 digits. So this number is going to go on top when I line them up vertically. Vertically meaning one on top of the other. That's all of what that means. So I am going to put 2 and 35 hundredths on top and 1.8 on the bottom. There we go. All right, our second step is simply to multiply. Just multiply it out. I want you to ignore that decimal, and I want you to multiply it out. And what I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen, what I mean by ignore the decimal is that you're going to write these out as if there was no decimal there. Now, we know where the decimal is. We know where the decimal is. I realize that there's a decimal right here. I realize that there's a decimal right here. But I'm going to write these numbers as if it just said 235 times 18. So the 8 is right below the 5. The 3 is right above the 1, and the 2 is right here. Notice that I lined them up all the way to the end. I didn't line up the decimals. When you're multiplying, you don't line up the decimals. It's only true for addition and for subtraction. But in multiplication, you do not line up the decimals. All right, and so let's actually multiply this out. Let us actually multiply this out. Okay, so so we're going to do 8 times 5. That's going to give us 40. So that's where that 4 came from. And then the 0 goes right here. 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 4 is 28. That's where these numbers came from. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 2 is 18. There we go. This is an 8 right here. Good. Now, because I am done with this first row, I'm done with the 8, I am going to draw a 0 right here. I'm going to write a 0 right here. I am done with the 8. So that's why there's a 0 right there. And then I'm going to continue with the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. And 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, now we're just going to add everything together, and I'm going to get 0. 8 plus 5 is 13. That's where that 1 came from. And 8 plus 3 is 11 plus 1 is 12. And 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So I get the numbers 4, 2, 3, 0. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not the answer. That is not the answer. Our final step is down here, count the total number of decimal places for both factors. So again, count the total number of decimal places for both factors. What does that mean, Mr. Lugo? What does it mean to count the total number of places, of decimal places for both factors? Well, how many numbers are behind the decimal? That's exactly what that means. How many numbers are behind the decimal? And right here, I can see that we have 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal. So therefore, I'm going to count from 4, 2, 3, 0. I'm going to count from the end 1, 2, 3, and that's where the decimal is going to go. So my answer would be 4 and 230 thousandths, which is the same thing as 4 and 23 hundredths, but this is what my answer would be. All right, so let's review. So again, we're first going to write the factors vertically. This is step 1. We write the factors vertically with the one with the most digits, the most numbers on top. It doesn't matter which is larger or smaller. It's just the one with the most digits will go on top. And we're going to line them up vertically, and they're both going to be all the way to the end. We're going to be ignoring the decimals. Secondly, we're going to multiply just like we did here. And thirdly, once we get our answer, we're going to count the total number of decimal places for both factors, just as we did up here. So we had 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal, and that's going to tell us where the decimal is going to go. I'm going to start from the end. 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be our answer. Okay, so let's do another example, ladies and gentlemen. Let me clear all of this out. Let us move on to another example. Here we have example number 2. We have 4 and 27 hundredths times 1 and 3 tenths. So step number 1, let's write the factors vertically with the one with the most digits on top. So I'm actually going to work this out here on the side. We have 4 and 27 times 1 and 3 tenths. Good. Notice how I lined them up all the way to the side. Next, let's go ahead and actually multiply these together. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. And 3 times 4 is 12. All right, we're done with this. And let me continue in a different color, slightly different color. And we're done with this row. We're done with this 3. So therefore, I'm going to put a 0 here. And I'm going to continue with the 1. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now I'm going to add everything together. This is going to give me 1. 8 plus 7 is 15. 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And then 1 plus 4 is 5 as well. So now we have this number, which is 5, 5, 5, 1. However, we are not finished. Let us do the last step, count the total number of decimal places for both factors. So we have 1, 2, that's 2 and 3. So I'm going to start here, 1, 2, 3 decimal places. My answer would be 5 and 551 thousandths. Okay, good. This would be my answer for this example. Let's try one more, ladies and gentlemen. One more. Okay. Let's do this one over here on the side. Let's use the same colors. So we have 1 and 473 thousandths times 2 and 31 hundredths. Now notice how even though this number is technically bigger, this is a 2 point something, this is a 1 point something, this one has more digits. Remember, the number with the most digits is going to go on top. So I'm going to make 1 and 473 thousandths is going to go on top times 2 and 31. And actually that doesn't, I need to make sure that a number is always below another number. Okay, so 2 and 31 hundredths. Okay, so 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 1 is 1. Good, and so now I am done with this row, so I'm going to put a 0, and let's continue. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 7 is 21, 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Good, so I am done with each of these, and I am done with not only the first row, but I'm also done with the second row. I'm done with both the 1 and the 3, so now moving on to the 2. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 7 is 14, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're going to add everything together, and that's going to give me 3. 9 plus 7 is 16. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11, plus 1 is 12. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 4 is 14. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have 3, 4, 0, 2, 6, 3. Now let's count the total number of decimal places. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So starting at the end, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my final answer would be 3 and 40,263 hundred thousandths. Yep, that would be my answer. Assuming that all my math is correct. There is a possibility that I did something wrong, but the process is correct. And so I hope that you find that helpful. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Let us move on to the next page. Give me 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay, so for this next page, I'm actually going to start with the assignment, and I just wanted to explain to you guys what we're doing here in number 8, just so that it wouldn't be as confusing. And so I am going to be working here with number 8, and let me zoom in a little bit. And so, and this is the number 8 that we find on OneNote. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on OneNote as well. Let's make this bigger. Okay, which is actually down here. So I am sorry. Wrong page. So we're looking at this page over here. Number 8. Okay, now for number 8, ladies and gentlemen, it's important that we take note of this paragraph up here. Okay, so let me draw. All right, so beginning up here, we read, when Amanda arrives at the grocery store, she finds the actual prices of the items she needs are slightly different from those that she used in her estimate. So she had an estimate above in another problem, but this is what is important here, this table. So for apples, it's going to be $2.25 for each pound. So if she buys 1 pound of apples, it's going to be $2.25. If she buys 2 pounds, we multiply that times 2. 3 pounds, you multiply times 3, etc. Blueberries, strawberries, kiwis, and yogurt, which is $2.50 per container. Okay, this information down here is important. She needs 2 and 25 hundredths pounds of apples, so that's for the apples, 1 75 hundredths pounds for the blueberries, 3.5 for the strawberries, and 1.2 for the kiwis, as well as 5 containers of the yogurt. That is very important information, okay? So now we're gonna do number 8. It reads, calculate the total cost for each item. And so since the answers will be in dollars, remember that we need to round to the nearest cent. In other words, we have to round to the nearest hundredths, and that's very important. So we have to do that for apples, for blueberries, for strawberries, for kiwis, and for yogurts. For example, for apples, each pound is going to be, so right now I'm working here for apples. So each pound is going to be $2.25. However, we need 3 25 hundredths pounds. So I'm going to multiply this times the number of pounds that I actually need. That's where I got these numbers from when you look at my actual notebook. That's where these numbers are coming from. Apples is $2.25 per pound, and we need 3 25 hundredths pounds. So I'm going to multiply these together, same as I did before. 5 times 5 is 25. Oh, that's not working. So here we go. So let's work this out. And actually, I'm going to rewrite this down here so I'll have more space. But you do yours in your notebook. So we have 2 25 hundredths times 3 25 hundredths. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. I'm done with this first row. I'm done with these numbers up here. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. We're done with the first one. We're done with the second one. Let's move on to the third one. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And 3 times 2 is 14. And now we add everything together. 5, 2, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 1 is 12, and another one is 13. 4 plus 1, that's a 3. 4 plus 1 is 5, and then 1 plus nothing is that. Let's count the number of decimal places. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically, my answer is 15 and 3,125 10,000ths. However, remember that this is money, and money doesn't go any more than 2 decimal places. It goes to the hundredths place, and so I'm going to round to the hundredths place. The 2 is going to make it stay where it's at, so it's going to be $15.31. That would be my answer for apples. You're going to do the same thing for blueberries. You're going to multiply the rate, which is $1.75 per pound, times the number of pounds. Strawberries, the price per pound times the number of pounds. Kiwis is the same thing. And for yogurt, it's going to be $2.50 per container, so $2.50 times the 5 containers that you need. That's the information that we find in our textbook. And so you can do that on your own. I'm not going to take away the opportunity for you to figure most of that out on your own. I do want to go to 13. So let's go to number 13. Let's make this smaller. Let's make this smaller. And let's focus here on number 13. And let me just zoom in up here. Okay, so number 13, it says to use a decimal model to find a product. Model the first factor by shading columns and the second factor by shading shadows. I'm not really going to go over how to do that. All I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to multiply these numbers. So for A would be 0.4 times 0.6, and for B would be 0.6 times 0.4. Notice how they're using the same numbers but in a different order. Let's see if it gives you the same answer. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you guys, I think you're equipped to do this assignment. I hope this video wasn't too long, and I will see you in class. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me either on Schoology or to send me a message on through your email. Okay, we will see you soon.